You know, we see it on the news all the time, right? Earthquakes, floods, massive storms, and our first instinct is to call them natural disasters. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? That the disaster part, well, that's often on us. And understanding that distinction, that's the key to everything.
So let's just ask it straight up. Are disasters really natural events? I mean, it's a common assumption. It feels like they are, these huge, inevitable forces of nature. But the real answer is a lot more complicated, and honestly, a lot more hopeful. Unpacking that is the first step toward building a safer world for everyone. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to define what a disaster really is. Then we'll jump into what disaster management is all about, including its continuous cycle. We'll also touch on the incredible role technology plays, and finally, we'll talk about why this work is just so incredibly important.
Okay, first things first. What exactly is a disaster? It's a word we hear all the time, but in this field, it has a very specific definition that, once you get it, kind of changes the way you look at the headlines.
So the official definition talks about a serious disruption causing massive losses. But the most important part, the real key, is that last phrase, beyond a community's ability to cope. See, a dangerous event isn't automatically a disaster. It only becomes one when it completely overwhelms the people and the systems that are in place.
Here's a really easy way to think about it. Imagine a huge flood in the middle of a totally empty field. No one's there, no homes, nothing. That's a hazard. It's a natural event that's potentially dangerous. Now take that exact same flood and put it right in the middle of a populated city. That's a disaster. The hazard is the same, but the outcome is completely different because it met a vulnerable community.
Okay, so if disasters are what happen when a hazard overwhelms a community, what's the solution? Well, that's where disaster management comes in. And let me tell you, it is so much more than just sending in helicopters after the worst has already happened.
At its core, the goal is pretty simple: to lessen the impacts. This isn't about just hoping for the best. It's a systematic, organized effort to make a real plan that protects lives, property, and people's futures.
And this right here, this is the most important shift in thinking. Good disaster management isn't reactive, it's proactive. The most critical work happens way before a storm ever forms or before the ground starts to shake. It's all about tackling that risk from the very beginning. This whole proactive idea isn't just a one-and-done thing. It's actually a continuous loop, an always evolving process that we call the disaster management cycle. Think of it as the fundamental playbook for building stronger, more resilient communities.
And it's not a straight line from A to B. It's a cycle made up of 4 distinct phases that all flow into one another. It creates this constant feedback loop of learning and getting better.
Let's quickly walk through it. First, you have mitigation. This is long-term stuff, like enforcing better building codes to reduce risk. Then comes preparedness. That's things like setting up early warning systems and having evacuation plans ready. Response is the immediate, heroic action that happens during and right after an event: search and rescue, emergency aid. And finally, recovery. That's the long road of rebuilding. But, and this is key, it's about rebuilding in a smarter way that reduces risk for the next time. And just like that, you're looping right back to mitigation.
Now today, this entire cycle is getting supercharged by technology. We can now prepare for and manage disasters with a kind of foresight that was pretty much unimaginable before. And a lot of that is thanks to our view from space.
Seriously, satellites are an absolute game changer. They gather tons of data that we use to build predictive models. They make early warning systems possible, which literally save lives. During a crisis, when communications are down on the ground, they can be a critical link for relief efforts. And afterwards, they help us map out the damage so we can plan a smarter recovery. They help at every single stage. And the best part is that this tech isn't meant to be a secret weapon for just a few. The mission of programs like UN Spider is to make this life-saving information available to everyone, everywhere. It's about ensuring every single community has a chance to benefit from it.
So we've talked about the what and the how. But now let's zoom out and focus on the why. Why is this work so fundamentally important to all of us?
This quote from the World Bank just cuts right to the heart of it. A hurricane can hit an entire coastline, but it will always, always cause the most devastation in communities that have fewer resources to prepare, to withstand the hit, and to recover afterwards. So this isn't just a logistical problem, it's a deep-seated issue of global inequality.
And because of that, you really can't have sustainable development without good disaster management. They go hand in hand. One single disaster can wipe out decades of progress. But the flip side is true too. Investing in this work pays off big time. Studies have shown that for every $1 you invest in risk reduction, you can save up to $7 in recovery costs down the line.
And this isn't some new idea. The United Nations has been championing disaster risk reduction for over 30 years. This is a long-standing global commitment to tackling this problem head-on. So if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this idea. We can't stop the rain from falling. We can't stop the ground from shaking. We can't always stop a hazard. But we absolutely can prevent that hazard from becoming a catastrophe. We actually have the power to change the outcome.
And that really brings the whole question back home to us, because this isn't just a job for huge international organizations. Real resilience starts locally. It starts in our neighborhoods, in our towns and cities. So the question for all of us is, what can we do to make our own communities safer, stronger, and more resilient?